Have you ever wanted to play the main character in a Disney Pixar movie? Or has a game ever been so gorgeous you just stop and look? It may have taken me twice as long to finish, but man, the view was worth it. Kena, Bridge of Spirits was developed and published by Ember Lab and released on PS4, PS5 and PC in 2021. For a game that was really well received, getting high review scores and winning several game awards, I hadn't really heard anything about it. While you're here, don't forget to like and subscribe for more OK Gaming. The first thing that many will notice is the cinematic style of the world and the characters, like it would fit in being released as a Disney movie. This was because the initial concept of Kena was for an animated film or series. Ember Labs realised using an interactive medium was a more immersive and sentimental way to tell the story. Before Kena, they'd created a short film called Terrible Fate, which was based on Majora's Mask. A sort of concept of how a Zelda game could be translated into a movie. The main style is based on Japanese and other Southeast Asian cultures and traditions, creating a comforting world that vastly contrasts the theme of the story that's being told. Kena is a spirit guide, someone who helps the trapped souls of those who've passed figure out what unfinished business they have that's keeping them from moving on. I know, deep and a little depressing, but the game doesn't make it feel too heavy. We meet spirits, learn their stories, and help them resolve any issues that they couldn't in life. The main plot revolves around reaching the mountain shrine, which is blocked by a corruption that was brought on by a masked spirit. This decayed the land and created monsters that took over, and continuously appear as long as the corruption remained.
This land can be healed, but you cannot stay here, Spirit. You must move on.
You are the one who does not belong. I will never abandon my people.
Kena meets a spirit who tells her she needs to help some other trapped spirits before she can travel to the shrine.
So you know what happens to spirits unable to move on. Take Taro's mask. It is bound to his spirit, and will help you fulfill your promise to the children.
Each spirit we help removes corruption, and the world becomes green and beautiful once again. The Rot are little magical creatures who help us along the way, and have understandably been compared to Pikmin.
Hi.
We give them orders and they can move objects for us. Find gems hidden in items. Help us find more rot. And even turn into a dragon-type creature that destroys corruption. At first I was unsure if I could separate them from Pikmin, but they have their own personality. and they're magical creatures that can teleport around and appear in random places, doing their own thing as we explore. This game has a different take on leveling up. We collect rot, and when we hit a certain amount, we gain a level. But they don't affect Kana. They give the rot more abilities and actions. I went into this game without reading up on it, and just went on looks. I know, how superficial of me. It's nice to surprise myself like this sometimes though. Kinda like a game roulette. I'm not overly keen on anything too deep or depressing when I'm playing a game, but I thought I'd give it a chance, as it was just so damn pretty. Wow, I wonder how many relationships were built on a mindset like that. The spirits are linked to masks, and when we get one, we can see flashes of their lives. We can also use them to see into the spirit world, enabling us to see items we can't see in the living world or break through barriers. The stories were really interesting, and though kinda sad, made me want to understand what happened and help the spirits move on.
The forest has become too dangerous, Taro. The village is the safest place for you. If you hurry, you can make it back before sundown. I'll come for you when my work here is done.
Once you help the first spirits, you almost feel an urge to help the others and destroy the corruption. There's definitely a bond created between the characters and player, which was unexpected but at the same time very meaningful. There aren't many games that do that within the first 30 minutes. It's usually built up slowly over the course of the game. The world is there to be explored, with loads of collectibles and treasures to find. Guys, we can find hats for our little rot friends, and the gems we find are purely for buying them. The areas have a linear aspect to them, like we need to get to an ultimate goal, but we're allowed to do everything and anything in between. This makes the game feel quite big, even though the map is relatively small. If we're blocked by the corruption and it's not a story quest, there's a high chance something shiny lies beyond it. Another nice addition that isn't truly needed, but is very appreciated, is fast travel, or in this case, warping. When we run past certain shrines, they act as checkpoints, and we can warp to any of those we find. Just makes things a little easier to navigate if you're finding yourself all turned around. One detail I really liked was in the soundtrack. When you're running around in green, lush parts of the world, we get happy, sprightly music. When we wander into corrupted land, the music fades and it feels like we're in a vacuum. Things become ominous and empty, reflecting how the corruption sucked the life out of the land. The combat was simple to pick up, light and heavy attacks, then introducing a bow and bombs later on. Don't get fooled by the cutesy style though. Enemies can be tough and hit hard. I'm not great at tactical fighting, so I don't usually dodge or parry, but this game forced me to. It's probably as close to Dark Souls as I'll ever get, but it's a little more forgiving on lower difficulties. The boss fights can really put you to the test, making you think on your feet, mix up attacks, or have to read patterns and telegraphing. It is rewarding when you beat them though. You feel like you did a whole lot more than just swing your staff. I would be interested to see how similar it is to Souls games when played on the hardest difficulty. The mechanics are easy to learn and use, and the upgrade system is short and sweet too. I didn't think I'd use the bow in combat too much, but there are some enemies that you can only hit with an arrow, so it made me mix things up a little. There are glowing gem-like areas on some enemies, which cause extra damage when hit, and we can also set our rot friends on an enemy to cause a kind of stun and some damage. You need to collect courage or yellow orbs during a fight in order to psych up the rots enough to help you out. The puzzles aren't too hard either, as the game gives you invisible hints and breadcrumbs to follow. It will present you with a problem, then put the solution off to one side for you to discover by yourself. They slowly get more challenging, of course, incorporating different abilities, platforming, and even timed parts. One big thing the game does is make you spatially aware, which I thought was a great touch. I used to work in a town with beautiful old buildings and shops inhabiting the ground floors. You would only see the original structures by looking above the modern fixtures, which can regularly be ignored. So, as with this game, if you want to see interesting things in the world, don't forget to look up. The story gets moved along quite fluidly, with the only breaks really being when you want to explore.
I've marked the shrine locations on your map.
Thank you, Rusu. I'll work to clean the shrines.
We're led to the next task or waypoint by linear paths, or by following the little spirit orbs, showing us relevant items in their stories. It's hard to get lost, and the map is pretty easy to read, with points of interest keeping us orientated. The story doesn't feel rushed, but it can be confusing keeping track of everything in the beginning when you're learning the game. I only got a grasp of what was going on after helping the first spirits, but then everything kind of made more sense.
You know nothing of suffering. This is my home, my village. Turn back, spirit guide.
The NPCs pop up now and then to give more context to an area or item, which can also help to keep you on track. The cutscenes show off the original idea of this being a short film. They're so atmospheric and well done, you almost wish there was a full-length movie to watch.
To a trained archer, the bow is simply an extension of the body. A spirit guide's staff is no different. Ground yourself. Feel the energy of the mountain. Draw on its power.
The combat doesn't drag on, and the encounters are just regular enough that it feels like you're making progress. Some of the puzzles can take a few tries to get right or solve, which can slow things down. But I've only had a couple of times where I was just standing still, thinking. When you lose all your health, or fall off a cliff or something, the game will start you close to where it happened, so you don't lose too much time getting back to where you were. This can range from super gentle story mode to Souls-like punishment. I think the combat is the only thing that changes with the difficulty settings, as the puzzles don't seem to have space to be more challenging. But I might be wrong. I play on Not a Real Gamer mode, remember? The exploring can have some puzzle aspects, but it's always balanced with the loot you find. There are some cursed chests that require you to defeat a certain amount of enemies, or do it within a certain time limit. The timed ones caused my blood pressure to rise a little, so I skipped out on them. There isn't a punishment for doing this, it will just affect the completionist aspect, and any loot you might want. There's a little side quest of delivering spirit mail to houses in the village, and each one opens up a house to explore, and has a little snippet of the former occupants thanking Kana, which was heartwarming. I really loved this game. It is a little daunting heading into a story that deals with such a sensitive subject, but it's almost comforting having Kana there with us. The design of the world and characters is just amazing and a pleasure to see.
Hurry! I don't think they can hold it for long.
The combat is just challenging enough to keep you going, and there aren't too many weapons you have to learn to use. Exploring with our rot friends and destroying the corruption is very satisfying, especially when you finish an area and see the land change dramatically. Obviously, this game has received accolades for how well it was made, but more people should be talking about how awesome it is. If you're in the PlayStation ecosystem, or a PC gamer, I highly encourage you to give this a look.
They love it.
This was fun. Let's do it again sometime. And if you like what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like down below.